All right. From the car, quick video. I think there's some landscaping going on behind me. We'll see how that impacts everything here. But I recently had some blood work done as, I've been experiencing a lot of fatigue and, a lot of inflammation, and things just aren't, all right in my body as to like what I'm used to in terms of a baseline. Now, I've had, bouts throughout the years of some, potential pre-diabetic scares, and I've, used to be a lot heavier way back in the day. And in more recent years, I felt like I had it under control, and now things are becoming a little bit harder in terms of trying to, stay lean and kind of yo-yoing in my diet, which is, by the way, a bad thing to do. So if you are out there and you're yo-yoing and you're like, oh, I know it's my diet and I'm not really being disciplined, and you keep yo-yoing and put on weight and lose weight, I mean, that's a really unhealthy way to live. So what I've noticed more so than just having like a slightly high A1C, which is your glucose measured over 3 months, the average, or, resting glucose, which my resting glucose isn't that high. I think it's about a 94 to 96, which I've always been, as my friend Russ likes to say, a high rider, but not anything, like 120 or 130 where I'm really concerned about being a diabetic. And I've monitored with glucose monitors as well. So, but my GFR, the glomerular filtration rate of the kidneys, which is a sign of the functioning of the kidneys, is a number over what is like the upper, how should we call it, allowed or identified, good number. In other words, my kidneys are not functioning at a capacity that is good enough to be considered healthy or having healthy kidneys. And so that is concerning. As you know, my wife is a nurse practitioner and she's been bringing this up. And we were thinking about, various reasons why this is. And I am going to now share with you the change I'm going to make, and I'm going to let you know why, and I'm going to let you know how this works out. And I'll probably get blood work before the next 3 months. Knowing me, I might even go in there in the next 3 to 6 weeks, because literally over the course of 1 week, I had my testosterone just off using a supplement called Tonka Ali, I believe is the way you might say it, or Tonka Ali. Andrew Huberman one time talked about it on a podcast, and that's just a root. It's not even like obviously it's a synthesized, supplement, but it's from a root. So it's like eating, something that is basically harnessed, from a or harvested, excuse me, from like some kind of yam or something. And, my free testosterone, or sorry, total testosterone went from like 660 to like 820. So didn't need to get on testosterone replacement therapy if my goal was to have a greater, not only total testosterone, but also free testosterone. But to go back to the GFR, a lot of what ended up happening was we determined that I am a avid coffee drinker. You probably already know that if you've seen any of my older videos on Instagram. But I mean, to the point that I would say that I am addicted to coffee. A lot of times I go to bed thinking about my coffee the next morning, and I'm one of those groggy, kind of sluggish people in the morning who doesn't just pop out of bed ready to attack the world. I need 15 to 20 minutes to kind of warm up with my coffee. And when you are most insulin not resistant, but because in the evening we're more insulin resistant as humans, and we're more insulin sensitive in the morning. But that insulin sensitivity also means your cells are really urgently sort of craving energy. And if you give it too much energy, or you give it the wrong energy, that insulin sensitivity could actually be working against you, especially if you're not exercising, which I don't, exercise with intention in the morning. And a lot of us don't necessarily get our real intentional exercise in the morning and then eat, appropriately. Or maybe we're trying to like earn some calories or burn some calories. And so we're like, okay, I'll just eat this way. But then your lab work, like mine right now, looks not ideal. So what we're going to do is, instead of me having coffee on an empty stomach with the high cortisol levels, which by the way, having coffee, especially like black coffee, to sort of get the caffeine sympathetic effects, are going to impact and make your adrenaline and your cortisol actually worse. So that's just one of those situations where maybe you'll be burning some fat or trying to not eat in the morning, but those cortisol levels are high. That will make insulin resistance worse in the morning time. And the thing that we're going to do is we're going to eat a balanced breakfast that's high in not just protein, but I'm going to incorporate spinach, which is high in zinc and copper type of minerals, or iron is what I really should say. The goal is to get the iron up, because we're a little bit worried that with everything I'm doing, it might be making me anemic and feel very tired, and I'm not recovering or not able to recover from it. So what I'm going to do is have sautéed spinach with a breakfast, meat, or eggs, pretty much every morning. And only 2 to 3 hours later should I even then consider coffee at more of the stable blood sugar and more of a stable cortisol level. So that is the goal, and we're going to see how that does. Although I've even been thinking about cutting out coffee completely, which, I don't know if I have the discipline to do unless I get the blood work again and then see that nothing has changed in the kidney function, because then I would have to try to cut out the coffee, let alone what other intervention going on from there. Now, if you have any suggestions as to what other intervention you think will help kidney function better, other than drinking plentiful water and including some fiber, I'd be really, curious to know. But I'm going to keep everybody posted on this, because this is the way you learn. You learn by actually having the lab work done. You learn by actually having the imaging done. You learn by talking to professionals that actually know various, how should we say, screening and then interventions and modalities to be able to care for and recommend protocols for these types of situations. You don't want kidney failure. You don't want, diabetes. These are like not two in the same, but they are related in the sense of when blood sugar isn't doing, if your blood sugar is not stable and your blood is too thick and things aren't filtering in a fluid way to sort of process and excrete through the body, that is how you become, concerned and probably sick. And the interventions, once you go down that medical road where you're reliant on medicine and you're reliant on things, God forbid, like dialysis, I mean, that's a lot of the times the beginning of the end for a lot of people. And so I'm very concerned when it comes to that. And this is how fast we want to act on these kinds of situations. I've gone on much too long, and I've got an appointment. So until next time, everybody, this is Dr. Pearlman.